Hello everyone and welcome to another video. How is everyone doing? And how is your climb going with the new changes in League of Legends? Well, in today's video we have a special encounter. As you know by now, it is hard to build proper items against certain compositions, and in our game today we have a heavy magic damage team with crit damage, execution, and also some heavy CC. It is not going to be easy. Rumble has slows, Ahri has her charm, Skarner has constant slows and suppression. So yeah, this game is pretty hard one when you're playing an engaged champion, and it is even harder when you're thinking about itemization. So I told myself if we only focus on one aspect, and that is to stay alive, do minimal consistent damage, but the important thing is to stay alive after many considerations. The choice was between Force of Nature and the Rookern item, and based on my experience, I lose a lot of games when I play the Rookern. Now, if we play at the start and open the game with a heavy magic resistance item, we will usually be lacking in damage. Hence, I thought to myself, why not pick the new item Overlord's Bloodmail? So the idea is that we will start the game with a heavy defensive stats item, then we will convert some of our HP as the game progresses into offensive stats, in this case, some extra attack damage. Now you can do the same by taking Riftmaker, which does the same but converts your HP to ability power and gives you Omnivamp. But since we are testing this as our first sample with this item, I thought it would be the Overlord's Bloodmail. I already played many games with Riftmaker, and this item requires you to stay on top of your target to do consistent damage. But with Overlords, I think you only need to do the damage once, using all your abilities on one target, then fall back a little bit to recover your HP. Now that we know what we are going to build, as you can see, we started this game with Rumble in the top jungle. It is rare for me to play against Rumble, and the only thing I remember from playing against many Rumbles is that the champion does a lot of damage. It is not justified, and I think it counters many melee champions in lane because when we are trying to farm, the flame from his skill doesn't get reduced. It hits minions, and you stay in lane getting cooked to a medium rare steak while he's waiting for his jungler to come and finish you off. So this game started as usual. I wanted to help our top lane since he is playing against Skarner, which is a broken pick in this patch. But it turned out that he was perma-pushing his lane, and it left me with other suboptimal options of ganking mid or ganking the bot side. Now, if you think about it, we have a Blitzcrank, and that is a good thing for us. But Blitzcrank only works if you land your Qs, so that leaves us only with a weaker early game. But fear not. As long as we don't tilt coming, even from this is a win for us in my opinion. About my choice of runes in this game, I was thinking of going with Grasp of the Undying. But that rune makes Volibear a different champion, and let me tell you why. When you go with Conqueror, or you go with Press the Attack, you are planning to stay in the fight until you die or your target dies. But with Grasp of the Undying, you should play with periodicity in mind. It means that every 4 seconds you will proc the rune. It doesn't continuously give you benefits so that you can keep engaging in a fight. And since it is easier to play with Press the Attack on Volibear in the jungle than playing with Grasp of the Undying. Because if I pick Grasp of the Undying, I will be constantly trying to gank topside or ramp and trying to benefit more from the rune against many champions. But since we don't know the outcome and this is our first time trying this new item, it is safer and more optimal to go with Press the Attack. My idea is this. Whenever you are unsure of the matchup, go Press the Attack. If you are very confident with your pick, then you are free to do what you want. The other thing is that I will stop building defensive boots and lucidity boots, and always go for either movement speed or attack speed, and rarely go for defensive items, because you get more from Berserker's Greaves on Volibear or Swiftness boots than you get from defensive items. For example, would you rather dodge the charm and get 0 seconds CC and 0 damage, or build Mercury's Treads and reduce the charm's duration by some percentage? Hence, you will notice that in the past 5 patches, or since the start of this split, I never built magic resistance boots because I think they give you the wrong mindset. You should play Volibear with the option of dodging. Taking damage and CC is considered you failing as a frontline, and if you get CC'd, it should be intentional as if you are running towards the CC to absorb it, not getting CC'd out of your laziness of dodging. To be honest, it always comes down to your amount of skill. Hence, if you don't know how to dodge, forget everything I said and build defensive stats and Mercury's Treads. The other thing in this game is that our mid laner is good and is trying to be helpful, rotating around objectives. But topside is a toxic trick 2G wannabe. He prefers to bully the enemy top laner rather than moving to our objectives. Because I can't gank him, he is always pushing. Instead of roaming and helping, He's trying to throw his awakened storm on the target and kill him under his tower, which in my opinion would only give him a kill, and that happens 1 in 5 games or something. Rather than coming and helping us around objectives so that we can get and distribute gold and kills among all the carries in this game. But this is League of Legends. Sometimes your worst enemies are your allies, and you shouldn't stress too much about it because the worst thing that can happen is to lose the game. And I'm sure no one will cry about their 1000th game loss in this game, so we focus only on winning and trying to get the best out of every possible situation. I am sure that in Plat and Emerald Yellow, players don't often look at their opening items, because until now in this game, we are leaving the mid-game and starting the late game. The enemy team is still focusing me first and using most of their resources to finish me, while I, on the other hand, started with Force of Nature as my first item. Hence, the second you start fighting me, I am only getting more defensive stats. If I am left unchecked, I can do serious damage. Not lethal, but you will be walking around with 20 or 30% of your health. The only downfall with my Force of Nature is that you, as a player, might feel sluggish as Volibear. If you are used to playing with Trinity Force or Riftmaker, you will heavily sense the lack of damage in your output. But you are creating a situation, in other words, a domain expansion, where every fight is meaningless. They need to invest everything they have to kill you. If that happens, they are left with nothing to face the rest of your team. So it is like a sacrificial goat type of playstyle, where you are laying the foundation for a good fight for your team. The other hidden benefit of this approach is that if your team is bad, and in most cases they are, you will die for nothing, and that's where the tilt comes from. But in our situation, we are switching from a defensive approach to an offensive one with just the purchase of one item, and that is the Overlord's Bloodmail item that gives us attack damage from HP. Now, back to my earlier point. If we went with Grasp of the Undying, every proc would give us more attack damage as the game progresses. Hence, if we get around 200 extra HP, that will be 4 attack damage extra in our stats. This benefits all our attack abilities, and that includes the Q, the Bite, and the Ultimate. You may think that 4 attack damage is not much, but think of it like this. Imagine if Riot released their next patch where they removed 4 attack damage from Volibear's scaling attack damage. In the end, you are left with 4 less AD. Every time you leave someone with 1 or 2 HP, there is a specific neuron in your brain that is responsible for regret that will tell you, well, those idiots, if they didn't nerf Volibear, I would be getting this kill. Now think of it in the same way. Having an extra 4 damage from a rune at the start of the fight can be the decisive factor in close combat. This is still just an opinion of mine. Maybe in the long term, Grasp is worth it, but you will lose a lot of games in the process until you reach the late game. As you can see with this setup, I can do at least one engage with the utmost confidence that I will come out of it alive, even if we fail. But that is not all. Our damage is above average, allowing us to chase valuable targets and finish them if they are below 50% of their HP. To be honest, I couldn't ask for more out of this because we are not farming well, but we got some kills. The enemy team has a lot of mobility, and I mean Ari and Raken are the embodiment of mobility itself. So the results you are witnessing now are actually a really good outcome achievable with just 2 items. Maybe they are somewhat expensive items that you need to be a little bit ahead or even in the early game. But based on my experience, I usually die in the midst of the fight against double mage teams if they reach their core items. Hence, we balance the equation. With just 2 items, we are negating 4 items on the enemy team. Of course, I need to pay attention to where Jin is so that I don't get crit to the face with his collector, but it is a fair trade. The third item that I'll be going for is Dead Man's Plate into Jack-Show or Guardian Angel. To ensure that we are viable in team fights, I consider Spectral Component as a final item, and we might just be setting on it until the super late game. Until now, my team has proved to be viable. At least they are decent when you are talking about Kaisa and Hui. Blitz, on the other hand, got unlucky this game, and our top side, I think, is bipolar. Sometimes he's with us, sometimes he's not. So I can't complain about his behavior. One thing that I forgot to mention, and I wanted to mention in my previous video, is that Nimbus Cloak is a very broken rune, especially in the jungle. I think Nimbus Cloak is much better than Water Walking, because it is pointless to have constant movement speed in the river when most of the fights are happening in lanes. Hence, you are not benefiting from the rune, and it falls off in the later stages of the game when most of the fights happen in the jungle, in lane, and on either the enemy nexus or your own nexus if you are losing the game. But with Nimbus Cloak, you have 2 summoner spells and 1 that gets stacked. It is immensely beneficial from the boost of your movement speed so many times that I cannot even point out. For example, you are chasing someone, you smite them, they get slowed, you get the bonus movement speed, you manage to catch them. You are running from someone, you smite them, they slow down, and you get the movement speed everywhere and anywhere as long as you have smite up or your flash up. I suggest that if you are usually playing with water walking, give Nimbus Cloak a try. You might find out that it is a more beneficial rune than other options in the sorcery tree. With this, my dear viewers, our time together has reached to an end. As always, thank you for watching and make sure to drop a like, leave a comment and subscribe if you are new to the channel. Hopefully in my upcoming games, I'll remember turning on target champions only so that I don't fail my ganks. With this, take care everyone and peace.